Muhammad Ali, the fight beyond the ring. 1. The boy who dared to dream big. Louisville, Kentucky, a quiet little town in 1940s America. The streets were calm, the houses modest, and the future, especially for a poor black child, was anything but certain. That's where Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr. was born on January 17, 1942. Son of a sign painter and a domestic worker, his childhood was filled with challenges, but also something rare, a fire in his eyes that burned bright from an early age. Cassius wasn't just another neighborhood kid. He talked big, dreamed big, and promised the world that one day he'd be the greatest. The legend began with a stolen bicycle. He was just 12 when it vanished. Furious, he went to the police station, not just to report it, but to tell them he wanted to find the thief and beat him up. The officer he spoke to, Joe Martin, just happened to be a boxing coach. And in that split second, as if fate had written it into a movie script, Martin said, "Before you go looking for a fight, why don't you learn how to do it right?" And that's how Cassius Clay first stepped into a boxing ring, and never looked back. Inside those ropes, covered in sweat and grit, he found something bigger than anger. He found purpose. He felt free. He felt unstoppable. His fists started doing the talking, but it was his heart that led every punch. In the ring, he wasn't just fast. He was art in motion, a kid who floated past opponents like he was defying physics and expectations. He didn't fit any mold. He broke them and built his own. While the world still didn't know his name, Cassius shouted it loud, "I'm gonna be the world champ. I am the greatest." Some said it was arrogance, but no, it was faith, hunger, a fire in the belly, the kind of certainty only a kid with nothing to lose and everything to prove could carry. Before he became Muhammad Ali, before he became a legend, he was just a boy with a stolen bike, a massive dream, and a flame inside him that time. 2. The birth of a king. I am the greatest. When a young Cassius Clay stepped into the boxing ring at the 1960 Olympic Games in Rome, the world had no idea what it was about to witness. He was just 18, tall, lean, wide smile, and a confidence that filled every inch of the arena. In his mind, the win was his long before the first punch, and when he brought home the gold, it wasn't just a medal around his neck. It was the first step on a path that would change boxing forever. Back home, he carried the hopes of a generation on his shoulders, but something deep down was unsettled. That shiny medal on his chest couldn't get him a seat at a whites-only restaurant. He'd fought for a country that still wouldn't fight for him. And that moment cracked something open inside of him and gave birth to a transformation that was bigger than sports. Cassius Clay became Muhammad Ali. But this wasn't just a name change. It was a rebirth, a declaration, a stand. When he embraced Islam, it wasn't about religion alone. It was about reclaiming identity, defying a system and choosing to be free, in a world that charged a high price for that choice. He talked loud, he rhymed, he predicted knockouts before the bell even rang. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. It wasn't just trash talk, it was poetry with gloves on. To some it was cockiness, but to millions it was raw power. It was a young black man refusing to shrink, refusing to ask permission to exist. In 1964, he faced Sonny Liston, a beast of a champion, feared by everyone. Almost no one gave Ali a chance, but he believed. He danced, he dodged, he dazzled, and that night he didn't just win, he shocked the world. And when he left the ring yelling, "I am the greatest," it wasn't a brag. It was a prophecy fulfilled. Ali wasn't just a boxer, he was a new kind of king, a king without a crown, but with entire crowds in the palm of his hand. He didn't need jewels. His words, his fire, and his courage were enough, and slowly the world began to see. Muhammad Ali didn't come to be part of history. He came to rewrite it. 3. The fight outside the ring. It was 1967. Muhammad Ali had already conquered the world, fists flying, words blazing, a smile that could light up a stadium and a jab that could shut it down. Undefeated, charismatic, a symbol of power and pride for millions. But that year, America was at war, not just overseas in Vietnam, but within itself. Young men were being drafted, sent to fight and die. And then came a moment that would change everything. Not just for Ali, but for how the world would remember him. My enemy is not the Viet Cong. No Viet Cong ever called me Nanashi. With that, Ali refused the draft. He said no to war, no to a system that demanded loyalty but offered no dignity in return. It was bold, it was unthinkable, it was legendary. The backlash was instant. They took his title, revoked his boxing license, stripped him of everything he had worked for. Overnight, the most famous fighter on earth became an outcast. But he never backed down. He was mocked, threatened, even hated. But while others went quiet, Ali stood tall. He pointed out injustice, called racism by name, and became a voice for the voiceless. For the kids in the streets who thought they didn't matter. For the people too scared to speak. And that's when his greatness spilled beyond the ropes, because a true champion isn't measured only by knockouts, but by the truth they're willing to fight for when the whole world's against them. While the boxing world moved on without him, Ali hit the road. He spoke at colleges, churches and rallies, to students, to activists, to anyone who would listen. He wasn't throwing punches, he was throwing truth. And it landed just as hard. He was hunted by the government, doubted by millions. But still, he smiled, he spoke, he inspired, he suffered, and he kept walking forward. Years later, the US Supreme Court cleared his name. He won, but not with belts or trophies. It was a win for integrity, a win for courage, a win that said loud and clear, sometimes the biggest fight of your life has nothing to do with fists. And it was there, in the silence of the ring he couldn't enter, that Muhammad Ali became something more than a world champion. He became a warrior of peace, a voice that could not be silenced, a symbol of what it means to lose everything, and still walk away with your soul intact. Udirustin legendary battles, the rumble in the jungle and Thrilla in Manila. After years away from the ring, banned for his beliefs, stripped of his title, crucified by the press, Muhammad Ali finally had his shot to return. But the game had changed. Boxing had a new king, George Foreman. Young, ruthless, undefeated. A walking wrecking ball who crushed opponents in just a few rounds. He wasn't just strong, he was scary. And yet in 1974, in the heart of Africa, Kinshasa, Zaire, Ali stood tall, ready to face him. The rumble in the jungle. It wasn't just a fight, it was a movement, a spiritual homecoming. To the people of Africa, Ali wasn't just a boxer, he was a brother coming home. He was greeted like royalty, crowds chanting, "Ali Bomaye, Ali, kill him!" Foreman was younger, bigger, meaner. But Ali had something Foreman couldn't understand, unshakable faith and a mind as sharp as his jab. In the ring, Ali invented something never seen before, the rope-a-dope. He leaned back on the ropes, took the hits, let Foreman punch himself tired, round after round. And then, when the moment came, Ali exploded, a flurry of punches. Foreman hit the canvas. The world froze. Ali had done the impossible again, not with brute force, with patience, with brilliance, with a heart bigger than fear. But his greatest test was still to come. A year later, 1975, came the Thrilla in Manila, his third and final bout with his fiercest rival, Joe Frazier. The tension was volcanic. Their first two fights had already become the stuff of legend. This one would be war. 14 rounds of pure brutality, scorching heat, no mercy. They hit each other with everything they had, body, soul, pride. Ali would later say, That was the closest I've ever been to death. At the end of the 14th round, Frazier couldn't see, couldn't go on. His trainer threw in the towel. Ali didn't cheer. He didn't dance. He collapsed, spent, silent. Because this wasn't just a win, it was survival. These fights weren't just battles for titles. They were messages to the world. They said, "I'm still here." They said, "You can't break me." They said, "This is what greatness looks like." In those moments, Muhammad Ali didn't just box. He wrote poetry with pain. He sculpted legacy out of sweat and steel. He taught the world that true greatness isn't just about winning. It's about refusing to fall. 5. The price of greatness. To the world, Muhammad Ali was untouchable, a living legend. The man who took down monsters with poetry in his mouth and fire in his fists. But greatness, it always comes at a cost. And for Ali, that cost was steep, painful, relentless, and deeply human. After years of brutal wars in the ring, of titles won and lost, of pushing his body to its limit and far beyond, Ali began to slow. The reflexes weren't the same. The speed, once supernatural, had faded. But still, he fought on, because the ring was more than a battlefield. It was home, it was purpose, it was him. In 1980, at 38 years old, he faced Larry Holmes, a fight that should have never happened, and the world knew it. The Ali who danced, who dazzled, who defied odds, wasn't there. The punches were slower, the eyes dimmer, and after 10 heartbreaking rounds, his trainer Angelo Dundee stepped in and said what no one wanted to say. "That's enough." Ali didn't just lose a fight. It felt like we were all watching the curtain fall on a myth. Soon after came the diagnosis, Parkinson's disease. A silent, invisible punch that would stay with him for the rest of his life. The man who once floated like a butterfly now trembled just to lift a spoon. The voice that once shook arenas now fought to form simple sentences. But even then, Ali never complained. He never disappeared. He never asked for pity. He kept smiling, kept showing up, kept inspiring. In 1996, the world held its breath as he appeared at the Atlanta Olympics, torch in hand, hands trembling, eyes shining. The fire he carried wasn't just symbolic, it was real. It lit up the hearts of millions, not because of what he had done in the past, but because of who he still was. Ali showed us that being a hero isn't about winning every fight. It's about showing up when it's hardest. It's about standing tall, even when your body wants to fall. It's about becoming a light, even as the darkness creeps in. He lost his strength, but never his essence. He lost his voice, but never his message. He lost the ring, but never the world's love. Because Muhammad Ali wasn't just built of muscle. He was built of spirit, and it was in the frailty of his body that the world finally saw the full weight of his strength. 6. The legacy of the greatest of all time. On June 3, 2016, the world stopped. Muhammad Ali, the man who defied time, titles, logic, and even death in the ring, took his final breath. He was 74. And in that moment, a silence fell across the globe. Not of sorrow alone, but of deep respect. Because what Ali left behind couldn't be measured in belts or medals. It couldn't be boxed up in highlight reels. It was written into hearts. His legacy is alive, tangible, timeless. He wasn't just the greatest boxer who ever lived. He was a global symbol of courage, a relentless fighter for justice, equality, and truth. He didn't use his fame just to shine. He used it to shine light on others. He spoke against racism, war, and oppression. He stood beside people the world tried to ignore. And even now, years after his last breath, many still say he was the greatest human being to ever wear boxing gloves. But it wasn't just his strength or his speed that made him immortal. It was his humanity. The Muhammad Ali Center, founded by him and his wife, still stands today as a beacon of hope, guiding young people to think bigger, dream louder, and walk with purpose. His speeches are studied, his fights rewatched, his spirit felt. His name now lives on in schools, museums, arenas. His image is immortalized in murals, sculptures, books, movies. But the truest monument, it's in the hearts of those who dare to believe. Those who speak truth, fight fair and rise again, no matter how many times they fall. Ali taught us that being a champion isn't about raising a trophy. It's about raising your head when the world tries to keep it down. It's about standing firm when life punches harder than any opponent. It's about turning pain into power and power into purpose. He showed us that vulnerability isn't weakness, that even giants can shake and still lead, that the strongest kind of strength is the one that lifts others. Many who love him never saw him fight live, but still they feel him. They carry him, because real icons don't fade, they echo. Muhammad Ali lives on, in every young person who dares to dream out loud, in every athlete who believes heart is more powerful than muscle, in every soul who chooses courage over comfort. He left us with words that ring forever. Don't count the days. Make the days count. And he did. Oh, he did. He turned every round, every fight, every breath into a legacy that will never die. 7. The fight lives on, Ali's eternal flame. Yes, Muhammad Ali is gone, but make no mistake, the fight lives on. Because true champions don't just win fights, they light fires in people, and fire, when passed from heart to heart, never dies. Ali lives in every athlete who kneels for justice, in every young black kid who dares to dream, even when the world says no, in every voice that speaks out in a world that tries to silence truth. He lives in courage, in defiance, in faith. His name echoes in classrooms that carry his message, in organizations that fight for equity, in speeches that ignite movements, in art, in sport, in soul. The Muhammad Ali Center continues his mission to awaken compassion, responsibility, and confidence in young people around the world, to teach that greatness isn't just talent, it's service, that the truest strength is the kind that lifts others when they fall. Ali lives in pop culture, on murals, in documentaries, on t-shirts, but more than anything, he lives inside us, inside anyone who dares to speak up, inside anyone who chooses dignity over fear, inside every kid who whispers to themselves, "I'm gonna be great," because that was always his real victory, not just winning rounds, but waking people up, passing the torch, becoming the flame. His body may be at rest, but his spirit, it fights on, it floats, it shines. He didn't just change boxing, he changed the world. And if you felt even a spark of that, if this story stirred something in you, then know this: Ali lives in you too. Now this is your round. If this story moved you, don't leave without making it count. Drop a comment below. Tell us what Muhammad Ali means to you. Which part hit you hardest? What moment made you tear up or stand up? Smash that like button, not just for the video, but for what Ali stood for. Share this with someone who needs to feel strong again. Send it to a friend who's on the ropes, to someone who needs to remember the fight is worth it. Subscribe to the channel for more stories that hit harder than any punch, more than a video. We tell legacies with soul. This isn't just content, this is heart, this is truth, this is power. Because like Ali said, service to others is the rent you pay for your room here on earth. So tell me now, are you ready to fight for something bigger than yourself?